Hi everybody and welcome to our fourth Key Stage 3 science lesson. Today's lesson is called the periodic table, and by the end of this lesson hopefully we'll be able to take some of the elements we've learned about and position and classify them on the periodic table. So before we look forward to the periodic table, let's look back at last lesson when we were balancing chemical equations. I'd like you to pause the video and use the method that we learned last time to balance the equation on screen. Okay, how did you get on? So Al plus Cl2 makes AlCl3. So the first thing we need to do is write down what we've got in the boxes. So I've got an Al, I've got two Cl's in a box, and I've got Al and my three Cl's in the other box. And remember, you can only add a box at a time. So on the right hand side I've got three Cl's, but on the left hand side of the arrow I've got two. So I'm going to add another one of them. Now I've got four Cl's on the left hand side, but only three on the right hand side. So I need another box on the right hand side. Okay, so now I've got six Cl's on the right hand side in total and two Al's. So if I add another box of Cl's, now I've got six of them, and if I add another box of Al, I've got two of them. So now I've balanced the equation, and all I have to do is put the numbers back into the original equation. Two boxes of Al, three boxes of Cl2, and two boxes of AlCl3. I hope you did okay with that. If you're a little bit rusty, maybe you want to look back at lesson 3 before you move on. So those elements like Al and Cl can be placed into two main categories, and those are metals and non-metals. And if I show you a full picture of the periodic table like that, you'll see that if I take the little line between B and Al, just there, and I kind of walk down as if I'm walking down steps from left to right, I can separate the periodic table into two sections. On the left of that line are where all the metals are, and on the right of that line are where all the non-metals are. So very simply, if you were asked to describe where the metals are on the periodic table, you can just say to the left-hand side. And the same with the non-metals, you would just say to the right-hand side. There are 6 science classes at Buile Hill, and if I click on class 1, what it does is it reveals all the names of the pupils that are in class 1. We don't call them classes on the periodic table, we call them groups. And group 1 has all the elements that are underneath it in it. So for instance, H, Li, Na and K are all in group 1, as are IRB, CS and FR. And as we move from left to right, we just get another group each time. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you expect it to be 8, but actually it's group 0. And we'll tell you why when you get to Key Stage 4. In the middle, that big section there that has no number with it is actually a group called the transitional group. Now let me ask you some questions about it. If I was to ask you to name me an element in group 2, you would have to go and find group 2 and then give me the name of an element. And the answer that I chose was Mg because he's in group 2, but it could be any of the others. If I was to ask you to actually be a little bit more specific, and the question said, what group is Cl in? Well, let me give you a clue. Cl is a non-metal, so he's to the right-hand side of the periodic table. You found him yet? He's in group 7. Second one down. And if I was to ask you to name me a metal in group 5, well, you have to go and find group 5 first. And the 3 possible answers are Sb, Bi, and Mc. It can't be N, P, or As because I asked you for the name of a metal, and those 3 are non-metals. Now, instead of reading from top to bottom like we do in a group, we could also read from left to right, like you would in a book. And if we read from left to right, we're reading along a period. So if we went to period 1, which has H in it, and you trace your finger all the way to the right-hand side, you would also have He in it. So H, hydrogen, and He, helium, are found in period 1 of the group of the periodic table. And it's the same thing. We just go from top to bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So if I was to ask you a question about that and ask you to name me an element in period 5, you'd find period 5, and you can name me any element. And there's too many to choose from. I chose Ag, which is silver. If I was to ask you to tell me which period N is in, and then I would have to tell you where N is first. It's a non-metal. You found it? Well done. It's in period 2. And if I was to ask you to name me a metal in period 3, what would you say? Well, there's three possibilities. It's either Na, Mg, or Al. Can't be any of the others because they're non-metals. You ever played this game, Battleships? Playing Battleships is a little bit like locating an individual element on the periodic table. So when you play Battleships, you have to give a number and a letter. So you would say A6, and if that was where your ship was, you'd have to put a little pin in it, wouldn't you? And that's exactly what it's like trying to locate specifically where an element is on the periodic table. Okay, so let's say I asked you to specifically find for me AL and be really precise about where it is. So if you said to me it's in group 3, well, that's no big deal. So, because so is IN, so is B. So you have to be a bit more specific and give me the group and the period. So AL is in group 3, and if you then go across, it's also in period 3. So you could say AL is in group 3, period 3. It's the only element in that place. So what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to pause the video and I'd like you to have a go at locating the 5 elements on the right of the screen. How'd you get on? Helium is group 0, period 1. Silicon is in group 4, period 3. Calcium is in group 2, period 4. Gallium is in group 3, period 4. And francium is in group 1, period 7. Well done if you managed to get those right. What if I ask you to do it the other way around? What if I give you the group and the period number and ask you to tell me the name of the element? So for instance, if I said this, what's the element in group 2, period 6? Well, I can find group 2, I can find period 6, and the only element there is Ba, barium. Okay, so pause the video again and have a go at the 5 on the right hand side. Okay, hope you managed to do that well. Group 7, period 3 is chlorine. Group 0, period 5 is xenon. Group 3, period 2 is boron. Group 1, period 6 is cesium. And group 4, period 2 is carbon. Well done if you managed to do that. You're finding your way around the periodic table. Okay, to finish today's lesson, we're going to do something a little bit different, and we'd like you to share your answers with us on the Buile Hill Science Instagram page, or you can email your answer to your teacher. If that sentence that's on the screen said Man United wear red, you could say Man United wear red and white shorts, black socks. You could say Man United wear red, but so do Liverpool, unfortunately. Man United wear red because when they changed their name from Newton Heath many years ago, they decided to have a change of kit colour. So what we'd like you to do is write the sentence 3 times. All elements are found in the periodic table, and, but, because. Okay? Take care, look after yourselves.